Hi, guys. Welcome to the Cup of Fitness podcast. My name is Eva.
And I'm Julio.
And in today's episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about what has. Did I mess up on something?
No.
Oh, you were looking at me funny.
No, you know why? I keep looking at myself instead of the camera.
Oh, yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
I do that too. I do that on my videos as well.
Well, it kind of goes with the topic that we have.
Yeah, you kind of interrupted me.
I know.
So we're going to go ahead and talk today about what were the things that stopped us from achieving our goals, like our fitness goals, our health goals, and we're still working on them as well. But, I have about, let's say 10 years. I would say 15 years, but 5 years were more like I wasn't really trying to achieve like anything looking a certain way. And I think more likely like 10 years, that's really when I've been in my journey. And there were a lot of things that were stopping me from achieving what I was able to achieve now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still working on it. But I think it would be important to talk about those things that stopped me from going after it.
Okay. I think that's a good one.
Yeah. Was that a long intro?
No, it's not a long intro. I think it's pretty good.
Okay. So do you want me to go ahead and start with one of the things that stopped me from achieving my goals?
Well, that's good. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one of the main ones that I feel like, stopped me a lot, and probably a lot of people go through, is I was so scared of the change. I just assumed, living a healthy lifestyle was going to be very difficult and it required me to change a lot, which it did. I did have to change a lot of habits that I had. And they weren't per se like, like I was changing, how would you say it? Like something drastic where it was going to make my life worse. I'm trying to make my life better, right? So one of the things that I struggled with was change. I was so scared of it.
But give us a picture. So like what, let's say, for example, like before, when you thought about it, what did you picture in your mind?
So back then I thought, I didn't even think about a healthy lifestyle. I thought being able to achieve a certain look with the body, it meant dieting. It meant like getting to never have the things that I enjoy. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to have a piece of cake. I'm never going to be able to have bread. I am just never going to be able to enjoy life because I thought that it required you to get rid of the things that you enjoyed.
But like, give me a picture, because I think most people have like a picture of like, what are you doing? What were you doing like back then? Like, what were you doing? They're like, oh, I'm going to be healthy. What did you picture yourself doing?
What was I doing? Like, yeah. I was doing diets.
You were doing
I thought diets were healthy.
Oh, well,
that's what it meant. Like I thought it meant like you had to eat just chicken, broccoli, and rice, and it was going to be very bland. And, at that time, I loved a sandwich. And I was just like, I can never not have a sandwich. And I thought like morning breakfast meant eggs, which I have eggs every morning,
mm-hmm.
but it meant eggs and oatmeal. And I don't really like oatmeal in the morning, right? So those type of things. And I was just like, this doesn't go with how I was raised or the foods that I like, like even, I'm Mexican. I think most people know now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you grow up and my mom was watching like the shows of how to lose weight, like tortillas were banned. It's like, you cannot have tortillas. And I was like, what? Like those were kind of the changes that I was just like not ready to do. When it came to nutrition, like I feel like my struggle the most was nutrition when it came to that change of doing it. And
I think it's most people. I think most people suffer with nutrition, right? As opposed to being more active.
Depends. It's kind of half and half here and there.
I guess it depends how you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Latino channels are like the worst for diets.
Yeah.
The worst diet I've ever done was from Latino radio. Worst. Anyways, that's for another podcast.
Yeah. So definitely change was the one thing that stopped me a lot. Do you feel like I painted a good picture?
Yeah,
of what I mean by the change?
I think that's a good picture. But like, for example, like when I usually think about it, I picture myself running.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because it's usually what they, usually the marketing is like someone's running, they're kind of swimming. It's kind of stuff like that,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's typically how I picture it.
So for you, it was more like you fear the change because you were gonna be running all the time?
No, I
Is
mean,
that what you meant?
well,
Or
you said your number one thing was fear of the change, right?
yeah, it was fear of giving up the foods that I love.
Right.
And I feel like most people feel that way. Did you ever feel like that? Like, did you ever feel like if you had to go through a weight loss? Because honestly, like, we don't think about lifestyle change, we think about weight loss or achieving a certain body. Did you ever think about like giving up the food that you enjoyed,
I
or
think
that wasn't?
I think it depends. So every I feel like I've had different phases and it's been different every time. When I was younger, I don't think I don't think it's necessarily the fear of change. I think it's more of the fear of I don't know how to do this and I
Mm.
can't ask. It was hard for me to ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think when I was younger, that was a very big one. I didn't really know. I didn't have a lot of confidence. And so I really
And
struggled
it's
with it.
it's very uncomfortable to talk about your weight. It's very uncomfortable to bring up things that make you self-conscious about yourself to
Yep.
other people, right? It's difficult. It's definitely difficult. So I know where you're coming from, because I feel like most people wouldn't understand either if I was trying to say what I was trying to achieve at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really hard to admit that, you're failing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where the core of most of our issues is that we don't want to admit that
Mhm.
we're failing. And so we want to try to come up with these excuses, et cetera, et cetera. The truth is we don't know.
Yeah.
And if we did, we typically made the changes. So for example, when I was 17, I went to I think I told you I went to nutrition class, and that changed a lot. I mean, just that alone helped me lose quite a bit of weight.
Mhm.
So, and then I went out and went to, those weight loss doctors. Yeah. But that helped
My
me.
mom used to go, well, I don't even know if they're like if they're actual doctors, but I know there's like, I know here around here I do see a lot of weight loss
They
clinics,
are actual doctors.
but I see
Yeah.
my mom go to, so that's like a thing. You kind of grow up with like your parents also trying to, you know, lose weight. Like I said, it's not like trying to get healthy, it's more like weight loss. And I remember she went to a weight loss clinic too, and it was like a lot of like they would give her a diet. I remember the diet, and then like they would do these things that were just, not something that I feel like did anything, but they would put like little magnets in the ear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I've tried the magnetism thing, by the way.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about that? Oh,
No.
it was
This is gonna become a podcast of things of the weird diets.
the when I did it, it was fun. It was kind of funny. But anyways,
Oh yeah, you did tell me that.
I'm not gonna
Yeah, we'll talk about it some other
gonna
day.
go over it.
So I think it was change, and we talked about the fear of failing, right? Or not asking for help.
Yeah, not
asking for
not
help.
admitting that you're failing, right? And you really don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that I feel like a good majority of people actually
And
have.
it's very difficult because unfortunately, like there's like people could be like, how do you not know? Like there's so much, information out there. Like now we have the internet and you can look up everything, and there's these YouTube videos, and there's TikTok where most people nowadays get their advice from, which is funny. But like, it's like we are now, because we have so much information, like we don't know what's right or what's wrong.
Well, and there's also when I was younger, that was one, but I see a lot of people where they were able, they were pretty fit when they were younger, and then as they get progressively older, they can't maintain, the way, they can't maintain the weight loss.
Yeah.
So they try to revert back to what they did when they were 16, 17. You don't have the energy that I don't have the energy that I did when I was 16 or 17, right?
Yeah.
So then it's like they don't know how else to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
I was very like a pretty good slim average, I would say. Like I wasn't overweight or anything like that. So I would say like I was pretty slim when I was in high school. But I walked a lot. Like I went on walks.
Oh, that's right.
Well, no, I didn't go on walks. Well, I actually did go on walks, but I walked to school. I walked back from school, and like I just did a lot more stuff. And then when I started working, I started making money, and I was like, oh, I could buy all these foods that I never tried before.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and I think that's where the fear of the change came, because like it opened my world to a um different place, right? Because like I grew up with a single mom. She couldn't really afford going out to eat like all these places, and then I started making my own money, and then I was like, wow, I can really go out and eat here. Like, like surprisingly, like some people might not believe this, but like I didn't have In and Out till I was like out of high school, I believe.
Oh really?
Yeah, because like, I grew up with my mom, who is a single mom,
Yeah.
and her English is not that great. So she only went to what she was used to. So we would
Right.
only go to McDonald's, Burger King. There was this place called Bobo's where I used to live in the valley. So we would just go to those places because that's where she felt safe on what to
Comfortable.
order.
Yeah.
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 And that's funny, right? Because people don't like change.
Yeah.
You like the comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this because you know, we were talking about foods that sometimes comes to our mind. Like for me, it's like a McChicken from McDonald's, and we're like, why do I even want that? And it's just like it brought back memories of when I was younger, and that's the only reason I'm like sometimes I crave it.
Yeah.
Because it brings back like these memories.
Yeah.
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 And that's why like it was so hard for me to change, because I'm like, you mean I have to give up the food that I grew up with, like the food that my mom makes? Like that just seems impossible.
Well, like I came up with a realization like a month ago while I was driving to work. I was like, why do I like to buy things at the gas station? Because you always tell me, like, why are you always buying things at the gas station? And it's just because, my dad would take us out to work when we were young, and we would always buy things at the gas station. That's literally what 7-Eleven and all that stuff. That's literally all he would do.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, I have bad habits. I have these childhood bad habits, right? And it kind of hit me. I was like, you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's just something that's just so natural to me. And I'm like, oh, this is like really dumb. But it's childhood memories. My dad passed away. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
That I kind of gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's very different. I mean, like, like my dad, when we were younger, like even with him, it was like the McDonald's apple pie, and like every so often I'm like, I want an apple pie. And although I'm not as close to my dad, it kind of reminds me of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully we're not getting too much off topic.
No, we're not. So what's the second thing? So I have different phases, so I actually have a couple that I can bring up.
Okay, you can bring one up.
So I think this last time, so I'm about a year and a half in, nutrition only about 2 months. 2 months in.
Well, you have to give yourself credit. I feel like your nutrition right now is a little bit more 100%, but I believe it was like closer to 70%, like a few months back, compared to how it was when we first got married.
Yeah, so it was kind of two things. One is COVID hit, and I realized pretty quickly. I said, even though I've been working at this, because I'm, once you're fat, I feel like if you're chubby when you're in high school, you kind of have this, you would say like this chubby persona your whole life that kind of follows you. So even though you're not technically chubby, you still have it in the background.
Because there's things that you used to do.
Yeah.
You kind of miss those things.
Yeah. So number one was I realized that I wasn't good at nutrition. I said, oh my God, after all these years, because what I was really doing, I was doing a lot of fasting. So a lot of religious fasting, which is really good. But when COVID hit and you're stuck in your house, you don't have the distractions that you did, right? Distractions as in I'm going to work, I'm, going to play this, I'm going to do that. I didn't have those distractions. I couldn't fast. because it's so difficult to do it at home. So that was my first realization. But then the second one was actually injury. I sprained in 2019, December 2019, I sprained my ankle. And then in May of 2020, I was out on my bike and I just completely destroyed myself. I destroyed my arm and I destroyed my leg. And then I had this complete fear of getting injured because I kept getting injured.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty scared of being injured. I only been injured like very few times in my life.
Oh, well, and funny enough, part of that was also, it was also nutrition based at the time.
Hmm.
But that's where kind of the fear was, which was, I really don't want to get injured again, because at work, it wasn't just injury. I was also getting hurt. And like at work, it got to the vice president and she was like, Julio's like, he must have a big medical bill because he keeps getting hurt and he keeps getting sick.
Yeah.
And that got to me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get sick anymore.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a lot of pause. And I kind of froze in fear. I think not eating enough protein was a huge problem for me. I didn't realize it until I started eating protein.
Hmm.
We got married, she started cooking. I started eating a ton of protein and my body just felt so much stronger. And I was like, oh my God, not eating protein was a huge reason why I kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
That was one thing I didn't realize. And then the other thing has been, the reason why I'm taking so long this time is I want to make sure I learn good habits and eating habits so that I can maintain it and I can that they're long
So
lasting.
let's clarify what you mean by taking so long. You mean this time your weight loss approach is what people would consider the slower approach, which is, not technically a slow approach because you're still making progress.
Yes.
You're still going to get there, but because you're not rushing into it and you're not doing these like extreme diets, it becomes something more realistic, right?
Yeah,
Because you don't feel like, oh, I'm starving, or like, I mean, cravings do happen. And I know sometimes you get a little bit more hungry, which I think it's your cravings, but I think it's you realizing like, oh, it doesn't have to be the all or nothing, or like it has to be this horrible thing.
So I lost a lot of weight multiple times on low carb.
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized, that's why I went to fasting, but I realized that low carb just didn't work because once you start incorporating carbs again, you just lose control, because the problem is that you lose the weight, you don't learn how to actually be able to eat carbs while losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge problem, and that's why I've never really gone back, because I was like, well, it's good for the short term. Like within 6 months, I could lose 40 to 60 pounds. The bad thing is you're going to go back to carbs. I mean, it's just something that's going to happen. It's all over American diets. I mean, we're Mexican diets are full of carbs. I mean, if you like Italian, that's all carbs.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't teach you the necessary nutritional habits that you need
to teach you moderation.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's why I've never gone back. Although I definitely do like low carb. I feel like there's times where like we do low carb meals if we feel like we're kind of off track,
mm-hmm.
but it's not a sustainable long-term diet. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not. It doesn't do well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see like what you meant when you said like the slower route.
And the slower route is actually weighing food, actually seeing what a normal portion size is, because we are so, I mean, every restaurant the portion sizes are huge at this point. Making sure have food is a big one. In American diets, everything is fried. It's not good. So just making sure, learning how to have sustainable good meals that are portioned correctly, that are actually cooked well, and what type of food you should be eating. So it's definitely a process. It's slower, but it's a lot better, I would say.
Yeah. So I had other things that stopped me from achieving my goals, and I have quite a bit. So one of them was the weekend. The weekend really stopped me from achieving my goals, because like I used to work pretty long hours, and I worked for, I wouldn't say I worked Monday through Friday. Usually it was Monday through Saturday or so. And then, Saturday night came around. So my weekends weren't like, well, you know what? Even Friday night would come around and I felt like I deserve this meal. Like I've been so good. I've been doing my workout. Work has been crazy. I deserve a meal. So then Friday I would go out to eat. And then if I worked Saturday, well, I would go out to eat till dinner. But then Sunday is like I went all out, and that was like one of the things because I couldn't give up like the weekend. Like I was just like, this is what you do. Like I assumed all fitness people or all health people, they like people who live a healthy lifestyle, they all have a cheat day. And I realized that that was completely off. It's just something that, you hear from social media, or you might see your favorite fitness person doing it once in a while. Doesn't mean that they do it all the time.
But they market it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember Carb Days?
I don't remember Carb Days.
Like there's movies with The Rock where he legitimately takes out and says it's Carb Day, and he would just eat pizza and spaghetti.
Well, I know that
stuff.
what was it? Something about Sunday, the carbs don't count or something like that.
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of movies where it legitimately shows you these, these big stars that
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, but then we don't actually see what's behind the scenes of
Right.
what they do Monday through Friday or Monday through, they definitely work out way more than what we think or stuff like that, right? So I think we have that mentality of like, oh, I'm gonna eat super, super clean because for whatever reason there's like clean food and bad food, which I don't believe in anymore. And then like on the weekend or like this day, I deserve everything that I restricted myself from. And I realized like that was really causing me to fail because like I was restrict myself some days, right? Like I would restrict my carbs, or I would restrict myself from chocolate or things that I liked. And then all of a sudden, like everything just looked delicious.
Yeah,
like, I was just
of course.
like, I want everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we were dating,
yeah,
we had we were not the best.
We gained a happy 15, but I think it was more like 20.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think really stopped me from achieving my goals was I didn't invest in myself. So I told you a couple years back, I had reached out to a different coach or a different person, fitness person, and they actually reached out, and I stopped myself from joining the coaching because I was just like, no, that is way too much. I don't believe in myself enough to do it, which is another thing that stopped me from it, because like I have been doing it for like 5 years, 6 years, however many years. I always fail. Like I do it and I fail. So I don't believe in myself enough that I can do it. So therefore, there's no point of me getting a coach because I'm gonna fail anyways.
No, that's right. Okay.
And I didn't see the value in it because I was working against myself. And I believe that's like the one thing that stopped me from achieving my goal, right? So like now I have a coach, I have the accountability. And I remember the moment I got a coach, I was just like, I don't care if I don't believe in myself right now. I don't care. All I have to do is do what she's telling me to do and just do it. Like whatever goes through my mind of like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna suck, you're gonna, you're not gonna be able to achieve it. I'm like, I have someone who's on my corner, and all I'm going to do is just work as hard as I can to achieve it, right? Like I'm not gonna no longer just try to do it or try to do my best. I'm gonna really put in all my effort in that. And that's one thing I realized that really stopped me from achieving my goal was, not investing in myself and not believing in myself, because I I would throw in the towel every time things got hard. And I didn't realize back then that by doing that, I was actually putting myself down, or how would you like my self-confidence would decrease every time, because I wouldn't believe, because as soon as like, you know, what would be something that would be like, well, let's say the diet, right? So let's say the weekend came and I'm like, yeah, I want to go eat some pizza. And then after that pizza, I want dessert and I want all these things. So screw the diet, right? That was limiting myself because I constantly believed that I couldn't do it. I couldn't say no to things. And I didn't know how to work for things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that till recently, that stopped me a lot from achieving what I wanted to achieve back then. Um, that's, yeah, those two things.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can have a blueprint. Someone could give you a blueprint of how to do something or how to get somewhere, and we stop ourselves from doing it.
Yeah.
Right. You can have every, because a lot of times people go, well, tell me the secret. Here's the secret. But if you don't do the secret, it's not valuable at all. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I told it, I mean, there definitely have been times where I'm like, I don't want to do it because I don't necessarily believe in myself. Right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you start to wonder, like, and it's like this whole negative self-talk about it. It's not even like you don't want to admit to yourself that you don't want to believe, that you don't believe in yourself. You just start to think like, this is not, this is just something that I can't do. My lifestyle is not like that. My body can only lose this much weight. My body can only look like this because, like, like, obviously I already said this, but like, since I'm Hispanic, like my legs have always been thicker. I've always been a little bit curvier. I've always been told this is what your body's supposed to look like. And I was like, okay, I guess.
Because you're Hispanic. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the way it is. Like, we just a little bit thicker, which there's nothing wrong, right? I'm just saying, like, I was raised with that belief that my body could only look a certain way. And that was it. Like, in every time I looked at these like fitness girls or something, and I wanted to achieve that, I was just like, well, my legs are never going to be lean because this is how my body is made. And I can only weigh this much and that's it. I cannot get under that. Like, this is the best I'm going to look. Those were the beliefs that I had. And I didn't, and because I would achieve it to that extent, I wouldn't consider pushing further and see what would happen if I pushed a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I'll just bring up the last one, which is when I was younger, when I would look in the mirror, it's not necessarily the fact that I was big was the problem. My problem was that I knew I had a lot of potential, and I wasn't living up to the potential that I had. That's what really got me angry whenever I would look in the mirror. So I kind of had the opposite. I think finally what drove me was, hey, you have all this potential, like live up to it.
But I don't think like not believing in yourself doesn't mean that you don't have, like, you don't believe in yourself, that you have potential. Because sometimes I do feel like I have very high standards with myself.
You do, yeah.
And I get really upset with myself when I don't meet my standards that I want to meet for myself, right? Not for other people, or not for you or for anyone else but myself. And I get annoyed because sometimes, like, you'll have that huge standard, but then you have no belief. And you're just like, where am I going to keep up with that expectation that I have of myself? Because I don't believe myself that I can achieve it. Do you know what I'm saying?
But I think this is actually part of the fitness journey. When we've talked about getting to know your body, getting to know yourself, which is you understanding the kind of the balance between it, which is knowing when you're overcritical with yourself, knowing when you're not, you're too lenient with yourself, and kind of having the balance of in between, right? Like, hey, you made a mistake, that's fine. You'll get back on it tomorrow. instead of, oh, you made a mistake, I can't believe you, you dwell on it. Next day you do the exact same thing because you're dwelling on it, because it's like you're punishing
Yeah.
yourself
I
for
already
some
did
reason.
it, so might as well go do it again,
Yeah, and then you punish yourself and you make it, you make things worse instead of better, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So that's kind of, your fitness journey is understanding, hey, don't be overcritical of yourself, because you're going to punish yourself and then go backwards. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If you're punishing yourself and going forwards, that makes more sense, but it's the opposite.
It's also having the belief that other people who are living the healthy lifestyle, or that people that push it out there, right? Like either you see influencers or other coaches, right? Is having that belief that those people don't go through the same struggles as you are, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, like, I don't like to talk about my clients, but I will bring up something that happened on one of the check-ins. One of my clients was really struggling with the change. Like, she is really struggling with, like, she really wants this, she wants to achieve it, but she's like, it's so much of a change for me and I'm uncomfortable about it. And I know it was hard for her to share that with me, and that's why I kind of feel weird talking about it, but I feel like it's important, because just her sharing that with me, I'm able to share with her, like, hey, I've gone through the same thing. I know it's difficult. I still go through it. There's so many changes I still have to do that I'm like, every so often I want to go back, right? I mean, how many times have I told you, like, ah, can we just go back to not caring and eating out every weekend? And, like, it's like I want to go back to this time that I believed my life was more free, relaxed. I think because right now it's like a little bit more like, I'm dealing with a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
So I think it's that. But then you kind of bring me back and you're like, remember we did that and you were so unhappy with yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's important to share what you're going through, especially like if you have a coach, because there's things I share things with my coach, like, that I know my clients like would share with me, and they probably think I don't go through that,
Right.
right? So, like, for example, this last check-in with my coach, we've been kind of like on a maintenance, trying to build some muscle a couple months, and my weight has been going up. And it's a little bit different than when you are on a weight loss journey, because when you're on a weight loss journey, you see the weight coming down. Like, there's like victories that you can visually see, right? And now I'm more like on a maintenance, trying to build.
Build muscle.
Build some muscle. So the number on the scale should technically go up slowly, because building muscle does take longer than losing fat. So when I see the number kind of go up really fast, like this check-in, I had to ask her, like, am I like am I doing something wrong? Am I just like, gaining body fat that I'm not supposed to? Like, what's going on? And, like, I had to share that with her. And as much as I was like, man, I hope she doesn't think I'm annoying, but she just reassured me that I'm going the right place. And sometimes we need that, right? It's kind of hard to share those things with people, because you're like, I don't want them to think I'm failing. I don't want them to think less of me. But if there's like, you got a coach, or like a partner that's hearing you through your journey, it's important that you share it with someone so they can help you out.
Yeah, especially if they've been through it. Now, if they haven't been through it, that's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
if they've been through it, then
I feel like, honestly, like most coaches, good coaches, they usually go through their fair share of like horrible things that they had to, like, diets, like weight loss, often failing, years of, like, like them doing it themselves too. So when you think like that person's not relatable, like, most likely they are, whether they want to share that on their platforms, it depends on the individual.
Yeah. Well, also what's great about coaches is that they coach a lot of people.
Yeah.
So they kind of see kind of the different struggles that each person goes through. And so a lot of times they actually already have had a client who has had similar type of struggles, because
Mhm.
not everyone has the same type of struggles. So that's where I've actually seen the most use, especially for coaches. There's other types of coaches other than fitness coaches, and that's where I've actually seen. I'm actually kind of surprised how I've never really thought about that, about getting a coach, and you can get coaches for all sorts of things, even your careers. So
Yeah. I mean, I have a business coach.
yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, it would be awesome to have like some sort of IT coach, because a lot of what I've learned is just like through experience, and it's like you're stumbling and fumbling, and you're trying to figure it out by yourself. It's
Mhm.
really nice to have someone who already kind of knows the way
Yeah.
and be able to go through that. So, and I've had mentors, like past managers, who help a lot, but coaches can do a great job. And actually, my coach right now for fitness has been great.
Yeah.
Be smart, man. Be smart. But we're going to go ahead and cut it now. So how can people find you? You're a women's online coach. How can they find you?
Yeah, so you could always go to my Instagram. It is a cup of fitness _. You can always send me a DM there if you guys have any questions, or you could go ahead and comment here in the YouTube.
Hey, thanks for listening to us. If you guys like this, comment, share, like, and comment, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.